All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Happy Monday, or whenever you're listening. How's it going, Jen?
Great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're talking again about podcasting. I know we started to talk about it last week, right? Was it?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
a couple of people reached out. You had someone reach out to you, and I figured let's just do a little more in depth of
Sure.
how to have a podcast. So before we start, though, if you guys wouldn't mind, subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple or Spotify. It helps us out. Leave a rating. That would be cool. And engage. So what else was I going to say? Oh, the full episodes I've been posting on YouTube. So each Tuesday, these will post as a video. And I will, over time, I'm sure, learn ways to make them a little more fun because we've been asked to do that in the past. And I don't know who would want to listen to two people talking. I mean, watch two people talking. I'd much rather listen to it. But
People like it. I don't know why.
yeah, whatever. So if it does anything, we'll keep doing it, and whatever, we'll play around with it.
If you are watching, you can check out our new swag. Hello Hairco sweatshirt I got on. It's cool.
Nice. I have on like a wrinkly t-shirt for some reason.
Mhm.
Anyway, so podcasting. Where to start? I think you've just got to figure out why you're starting a podcast first.
Mhm.
That will help a lot with everything, because then you can go through and you can create your list of, your topics and your equipment and all that stuff. So really, like anything, like what are you looking for? What's the benefit that you're hoping will come out of it? For us, it's a creative outlet. It helps us just, I guess, get ideas out, and it helps us to help other people.
Yeah.
We both
That's what I like.
Yeah, we both like helping people. And it's
Mhm.
funny because we have people reach out. And when we started, I was like, nobody's going to listen to this. Nobody's going to reach out. And I bumped into, we bumped into, we were together, a friend of mine from like 20
Oh yeah.
years ago. I think I met her in like the 5th grade. Anne-Marie, shout out, because she was, what was I going to say? Oh, she was like, oh, I love your podcast. It's so funny. And I was like, you listen to our podcast? And so it was just kind
Right.
of cool.
She's in real estate, so she's not in hair, but she said she
Yep.
takes a lot out of it, and she has people that work in her office like listen to it just to get different business ideas and perspectives that she feels we add value, when she listens. So it was very cool.
It is cool. And so like it's fun. And like I said 12 times, we just like helping people. So it's an easy way for us to get that information out there. It's long format content. We can just have conversations. And yeah, that's really
It's
it. So
always
the
nice when
creativity,
someone's like, I feel like you're talking directly to me. And I'm like, well, good. That means like we're resonating with somebody. I think in anything you do, a lot of times you can feel like you're alone or you don't see past the battle or the struggle that you're going through. So if we can help shed light and say, hey, we've been there, we know people that have gone through this and they've come out better, stronger, or they've learned how to change and make things better, then I do feel like it helps people keep going. Like, okay, I'm not alone. Like this has happened to other people. This is normal. When you feel that way, you're like, all right, I got this. So for me, the podcast really just, I like telling stories so people just feel normal and like you're not alone and we've all been through it and we're still here. So, hey, you can do it too.
Yeah. So basically figure out your why. What are you looking for? What are you looking to get out of it? And that's your like step one. That's like when you start a business, you have your mission, you have your core values, and everything sort of comes from that. And are you doing this for personal? Like, is it a hobby? Is it something related to business? Like, those are all going to look different. Are you telling other people's stories? I know that like true crime sort of podcasts are big. Marketing podcasts are big. Science and technology. So sort of figure out what your niche is and where you're going and who your target audience is, because you'll be able to talk to them. And apparently, like we put thought into that in the beginning. At this point, we just make these and we talk about stuff we feel like talking about, and it's resonating with our target audience. So it just kind of vibes. And if it's not broke, don't fix it type of deal. I don't spend at all 0% of my time thinking about who's listening to the podcast. It's been finding its way into um, people's earpods or whatever they're listening on, and it's
And all
working.
over the
So
world too, so it's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, we're big in Sweden for some reason. But
Alright.
anyway,
Shout out to Sweden.
uh, what are your goals? What are you looking to accomplish with your podcast is another thing to think about. Again, maybe it's just to try something new and you're not sure. Maybe it's to grow your business. Maybe you are, I don't know, a car auto detailer and you want to talk about, the products that you use and why you're better and whatever. So it's an advertisement. Another good thing that you can do with podcasts that just popped into my head is because it's long format content, you can break it down and use that like little snippets and stuff in
Right.
your
Which
Instagram and in your
you do.
Facebook or whatever. Yeah. And then YouTube, we started playing with too. Just a way to sort of like recycle the work you're putting in. Decide on a format is going to help you out. So we have a conversation sort of style, I would say. There's two of us and we just talk.
Mhm.
We are going to bring back the interviews. We're looking at fall, I suppose. Um, but I don't know. Maybe your podcast, you're going to do what we do and sort of have guests on when you can make it happen. And
Mhm.
maybe it's just you talking, or maybe it's two people. I don't know. You got to figure that out, and that will help you a lot. And then we get into equipment. So you're going to need a microphone to start. It can be the microphone in your phone. Totally
Sound
fine.
quality is really important, though.
Yeah.
It's the
I
biggest turnoff if it's not done well.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about little like we still have times where like you can tell the network gets slow and it sort
Mhm.
of like will sound scrambled for a second. I'm talking about your whole podcast, and that's what I think you're getting at. The
Yeah.
quality has to be at least decent. I can link what we use for microphones. They're not very expensive at all. I think we spent $100 a piece on these, and it came with a little arm to hook it up to the table. So if you want something like that, if you want to be mobile, you can get like a lapel mic or just use your phone, like I said, or there are other mic options. If you don't want to have a mic near you, you can get what's called a shotgun style mic. So it can be off, and as long as it's pointed at you, it'll pick up your voice. And those are pretty cool too.
And those are, I think we talked about this last week too, but like your sound check's really important. So when we first like log on, I'll call it, we both test our mics. Today I was echoing and it took a couple little troubleshooting to be like, I'm still echoing. I'm still echoing. And those are just things you have to work through because you don't want to record and it be junk because you didn't address some of that sound situation in the beginning. So now we have just little ways to test things with our sound, with our how we visually are we blurry, all of that stuff. That's important.
Yeah. So other than your microphone, you're gonna probably want headphones if you're recording. I think they help. If you're recording while you're walking down the street, you're probably not going to use headphones if you're just on your iPhone.
Mhm.
So don't just go buy headphones. And they don't have to be anything crazy. I like over the ear headphones. It just blocks everything else out. They're noise canceling. So that works for me. Jen, the ones you wear they came with I think
Yeah,
those came with a microphone. We sort of got a bundle somewhere. Again, I can look and put
it
this
works
stuff
for
in the
me.
show notes. Yeah. You could swap it out for your noise canceling headphones.
Yeah.
You could use those. Those are probably, if you bought those headphones, are probably like $30 or $40
Mm.
single for a single pair. Not very expensive at all, and they're decent. They do the trick. You might need an audio interface. It depends on what you're doing, how many people you're going to have on. We use the Rode. Um, I think it's called Rodecaster.
Mhm.
So Rodecaster. We use as our audio interface. You can hook it up to your iPhone. You could hook it up to your laptop. You could have it on Bluetooth and have someone call in if you were recording that way. You can hook up. There are, I believe, just the four. So there are four audio hookups for mics and headphones. So you could run a podcast if you were doing, say, you had several people in a studio type setting where you're together. You could run that all off of this audio interface. You could do audio clips and sound effects and whatever because there's a soundboard. You can adjust all your levels. You can mute your mic, which I do often. If you feel a cough coming on, you just hit mute on your butt. And we're back. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So there's just different stuff that you can do with it. And it's pretty cool. They have smaller models now. They make really portable ones. You don't have to go with Rode. I went with Rode because I researched it and it seemed like they had great quality and it seemed like people really enjoyed using them. And that's part of it too. If you have a whole bunch of stuff that and you have a million wires and connections and Bluetooth things to focus on, that might be overwhelming. If you're starting a podcast, you probably want to have some fun with it. Unless
Right.
your podcast is like super serious, you know? What were you going to say?
No, I was just agreeing. If
Oh,
I had too
okay.
many cords, I'd be overwhelmed. I have a
Yeah.
hard enough
So
just for me, the few things I have to hook up on my own, I'm like, "Okay, how do I do this?"
yeah, and your setup is really
Really
pretty light,
simple.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I can link it, but I think it's like a Rode A1 or something like that that I have you set up on,
Yeah.
and you
That
can
is what
plug
it's
a
called.
single mic. Is it?
Mhm.
Okay. You
Mhm.
can plug a single or two or one. Is it one?
Mine is Rode A1.
I know, but is it one? Is there like room for another microphone to hook up or headphones, or is it just one?
Oh, I don't know about that one. I don't think so. I think just one.
Just look at the slot, see where the microphone's
Yeah.
plugged in. Is there
I
another
only
one?
see one slot.
Okay, so there we go. Um,
You're welcome. I hope someone's laughing.
of course they are. So that is something that you can use. That plugs right into Jen's laptop,
Mhm.
and it's powered right off of the laptop, and it runs the mic as well.
Mhm.
Um, Sort of going out of order, but what was I going to say next for equipment? So we can touch on laptop. Do you need a laptop? Not necessarily. You can do it from the phone. I personally like to have the laptop. I
Mhm.
use my phone for my notes, so I don't have to keep clicking screens down and clicking stuff, and I don't have to worry about hitting the wrong button when we're recording. What we run through the laptop for the podcast is called Squadcast. Again, I'll link this, and it's just a video solution. So if you wanted to have video, you could record right into Squadcast, and then what you can do is you can um, export whatever you want. So if you want the audio and video together, you can do that, or you can pull them apart and do it separately. You could export just the audio if you wanted to, and then upload it to wherever. I'll touch on where you would upload it next. But that is a pretty cool piece of software called Squadcast. And then we pair that with another piece of software called Descript. And what I love about Descript is that we can take our video and audio from Squadcast. So we record our episode, we have the video, and I drop it into Descript. And these softwares are linked. So all you do is hit add to workflow and just select what you want. And then it pulls it up automatically. It even opens the next screen for you.
That's
So
cool.
in Descript, it's really cool. So in Descript, what it does is it creates a transcript. So it goes through and it knows, you know, microphone one or whatever, however you have it labeled, Todd, and it pulls out all my parts, and then it pulls out all your parts, and it provides you with a transcript. So now you're looking at basically a Word document that's attached to a video, and you can edit that way. So it's as
That's
simple
cool. Yeah.
as yeah, and so it's as simple as looking at a sentence and being like, I don't want that sentence there. Like I said two of the same sentences in a row, whatever,
Mhm.
right? All you do is highlight the sentence and delete, just like you would in a Word document if you were typing a story or a blog post or anything like that. You can go through. Another thing I like is sometimes you will pause and you have all these long pauses where it's like, what was I going to say? What was I talking about? But you're like thinking and there's no words. Well, Descript will catch that and it will just appear as like dots so that you know that there's a word gap there. And then you can edit that. So it's
Cool.
really cool if somebody, and you can select different options and we don't have to go crazy into detail about Descript, but they make it easy to, if a pause fits, do you want it to be short? Do you want it to be natural? Do you want it to be long? Do you want it gone
Mhm.
altogether? And so if you're getting into editing in there, sometimes a pause for a dramatic effect it needs to be there, but maybe it's yours is a little too long, or maybe you want it longer, things like that. So you can just adjust and um, edit that way. The other thing that Descript has, which is pretty cool, is called, it's a feature they just released recently called Underlord, and it's their AI. And what you can do with that is you can ask it for, you could say, give me 10 clips that would be engaging or click worthy or whatever you want to type in. They should be 20 to 30 seconds long. And I would like them to look like this. And you can select one of their templates. You can create your own template, whatever, with captions. And it'll just pull those out. And it will
That's cool.
automatically drop them into a drawer. And you can open them up and then you can make adjustments or whatever you have to do there. Yeah. The other thing I do with Descript, not on the podcast topic, but when I'm creating content for our salon Instagram, everyone sends me videos, all their videos in Slack. I just drop them into Descript and then I can like move them around and shuffle them and shorten things and take out all the excess words so it's not a 8-minute reel. You know what I mean? And get it down to like a minute mark. So that's what we use as far as equipment. Again, you don't really need all that much to get started. You might want to think about where you're recording and if you'll need lighting if you're doing video. The best place they say to record a podcast is in your closet because the acoustics are good.
Mm.
You don't want to be in like a warehouse type or a really open space because you're going to get that sharp echoey effect and it's kind of a pain in the butt to get rid of after unless you're like an audio engineer. I don't know how to do it. We've recorded a couple times in places where it was just like really sharp, if that makes sense.
And again,
I'm
I
sure
think
there's.
some of this we learned as you went and
Oh yeah,
Todd
yeah,
was
of
like
course.
play back to like get it all ready to upload, and you start to like, okay, that doesn't sound the best or that doesn't look the best, and from there we just got better. Even
Yeah.
what we use now for video, what is this thing called?
Squadcast.
Squadcast. We didn't use that in the beginning. We used to
Huh.
record in the room together and then realized like this would work better. And we couldn't be in the room together because then the sound was off or certain things that Todd needed to do. So now we record in separate rooms so that we can utilize this software for all of what it offers.
Yeah, Jen is, if you're watching, she's like right through that wall right there. But the reason you can't be in the same room is because the system wouldn't know who was speaking because it would pick
Right.
it up in both mics. And so your transcripts would get messed up and then it makes editing, it just removes the whole robustness of the system. You wouldn't be able to really leverage it. You can do a lot of editing. I don't do a ton of the audio editing. We rely on the systems that we have. And there are some things where you can use in Descript that has like a studio sound that you can just apply. It's almost like a filter. You can put it right over. There's a ton of other options out there. I think there's one called Audacity for editing. I used to use GarageBand because I have a Mac laptop and it's just in there. And you can adjust levels and you can cut and paste and all that stuff. I don't use that anymore. I don't have a need for it anymore because we use Descript and I can just cut and paste all in one and everything's already right there. So not an ad for those, but it just how we evolved through time, just like you said, Jen. And then you're going to have to host your podcast somewhere. We use Buzzsprout. Again, I'll link all of this stuff. Buzzsprout is great. It's an awesome resource. If you go onto their website, they have a really comprehensive blog post that is just, it goes forever and it lists out everything you'll ever need about podcasting. So I can link that too. It's a great resource. I've reached out to Buzzsprout before about our podcast with questions and they've always answered them. So they're really cool. You can follow them on YouTube. They don't have an Instagram. They, for whatever reason, decided that they weren't really effective on Instagram. So they did one final post and it was like, we're going to focus our efforts on YouTube. And that's where they find that their audience is and they can engage with them and help more. So again, it's just about finding what works for you. Maybe your audience is on Facebook. I have no idea. There are other hosting platforms. So basically what the hosting platform does is it gets your audio onto the internet. So you have this audio, you save it in, Squadcast and you get it to Descript and then you download it onto your laptop and you're like, great, now what? How do I get it to Apple Podcasts? How do I get Spotify to know this exists? So it creates what's called an RSS feed, I think. And you literally drag your file and drop it in, and then you just write your title and your description and whatever else in there, and you upload it. Buzzsprout also has magic mastering, which brings the levels even for, again, I'm nowhere near an audio engineer, so this is over my pay grade, but what it does, and that's why we use these tools, right? I think it's like $6 a month or something. And it configures your audio in a way that Apple likes. So Apple Podcast is a really big platform, and they're, I guess, specific on how they want the audio to be, and Buzzsprout does it for you.
That's cool.
So you just click it, you turn it on, and I've just left it on since, and it seems to be good. Yeah, sounds good. What else? So we talked about recording and editing. We touched a little bit on a space. If you're mobile, it is what it is. You're going to be wherever you are. Maybe you're traveling to other people's businesses and doing interviews, or maybe you're just walking down the street and that's your sort of setting. If you're at home, I would suggest finding a place that's quiet. I like to be by the window just so I don't get I'm not claustrophobic, but I don't want to go sit in a closet. So some days when it's nice, I open up the windows, and you probably heard that on podcasts. If you're listening, you've probably heard birds chirping and dogs barking and trash trucks going
Lawnmowers
by.
going.
Generally, I was going to get to that. So generally the lawnmowers is where I draw the line. So we use, are these condenser or dynamic mics? I always forget.
Don't ask me.
Yeah. So I think they're condenser mics, but so they pick up everything. They are sensitive. So if you're in a room and you have even a dog running around in circles, you're going to hear that on your hardwood.
Or if your child is building some blocks right near you, you probably can hear part of that happening right now.
I can't hear because I'm focused on talking and getting this podcast done. But is he playing?
Yeah,
is it Ollie?
Building.
He's building. That's awesome.
He just built something.
So sometimes it's not going to be perfect, but I would find something I have nice. I have a little desk set up and my laptop and audio interface, and then I have a couple of lights because it gets dark in this corner. So that's my sort of permanent setup. Yours, if you had an office, that would work. I remember when I did them, when I had my first podcast, when I had my gym, and I had to do it when the gym was closed or on a break because people dropping barbells, it was just way too loud and I couldn't get anything accomplished.
I am currently in our son's bedroom because it's summertime, and usually I'm downstairs, which I like, in the kitchen. It's nice and open, but it would be too loud right now with everybody home for the summer. So you get to see an elephant and a giraffe because this is the part of the bedroom that looks clean and organized.
So we talked about equipment. We talked about recording, editing, publishing. So check out whatever. There's tons of other options other than Buzzsprout. I like Buzzsprout again for it's just ease of use, and the value that they provide is great.
I think even to take in what we're using, and then you'll form an opinion if it's working for you. Yeah. I love everything that you just said. I just show up and talk. That's my role here. But I think what Todd's offering is basically, if you want to get started rather than be super overwhelmed, the stuff we're using now, like I said, is not always what we were using, and you've learned so much so that it's just gotten better that you can start and keep it simple and try these things. And then over time, you will get your own opinion of what you're doing, but then you could just focus on the content you're putting out and who are you creating your content for.
Exactly. And so the first thing I think of when you say that the equipment is not the same, I'd love to upgrade our mics at some point. There's some really great microphones out there that do really cool stuff. But at this point, we haven't really had an issue with these mics. The other day, I was like, I wish one would die. So we had to get something new. But then I'm like, no, these are actually decent quality microphones. And I don't think you can beat them for the price. You can even get, I believe there's probably a newer model. So you could probably get these ones for even cheaper. And like I said, I think they were bundled at $100 for headphones, mic, and the arm.
I think too, when you're getting started with anything, and we talk about this from not only the podcast, but in your business, if you're trying to implement something new, or behind the chair, you're trying to implement something new, consistency is key. So I would say it's really fun to go out and buy equipment and get your setup all looking so cool and cute. But if you don't actually do the work and record your podcast and consistently put it up, then it doesn't make sense to be like, I need all the best stuff. So, like for us, we didn't know how long we would do this for. We weren't sure, we kind of just got going and then committed, whatever. So at this point, I think we're close to 3 years, maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
it makes sense for us to get new microphones and upgrade some stuff because we're every Monday for 3 years have put out a podcast. But in the beginning, like get your stuff, but the job part is to actually record and get your information out there and consistently put that stuff out there.
Yeah, I would almost say the lighter you can be at first, the
Yeah.
better. And then you'll find holes, you'll find challenges, you'll struggle with stuff, and then do some research or reach out to us. I'll help you. I love helping
Mhm.
people and talking about this stuff. I'm a tech geek, so I don't always know what all this stuff does, but I like playing around with it and I like technology. So I'm
Mhm.
always looking into stuff. But wait until you have a problem
Right.
and then fix it with some sort of equipment instead of buying. Yeah, you're not going to set up a full studio unless you're like that type of person where you're like,
Right.
you know what, I'm going to
Full
build out a
send it.
studio in my basement and yeah, full send,
Mhm.
uh, which is great. So if you want to do that too. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was the consistency, like you said, Jen. So I think it's important to have a schedule. You're going to have people that listen to you. Like we have people that are like every Monday, I look forward to listening to you guys. It's not fair to them to just miss a week here because I didn't get to it or whatever. So that's on you. Kind of figure it out. Or maybe that's your thing. Maybe you release them all over the place and that's your niche. And people are like, I never know when Scott's going to release his podcast. I don't know who Scott is, but he's going to have a podcast and he's going to release it on
He
random
is.
days. Random
It's gonna
Scott.
be good.
Engage with your audience. So again, with Buzzsprout, we've just set up fan mail. It's called. It says at the top of the podcast description in the notes, it just says send us a text message. If someone hits that, it pops open their text messages app, and they can just shoot us a text. It's
Which is cool.
private. I don't get your name. I don't get your number. So
Mhm.
if you want me to know who you are, put your name in there. If you don't, just leave it how it is,
Cool.
and I'll never know. It tells me, I think, the last four of your phone number, and then it tells me your about location. So that's pretty cool. We talked about Instagram and social media. Again, if you leverage these tools and softwares, it's really easy to chop stuff up. But I
Mhm.
used to do it old school. I used to do it through Buzzsprout. They have what's called visual sound bites, and you can go through you sort of scroll through your audio and make a clip, and then you can put like a sound wave on it or something. It's really basic. It's not video, but you can use it as a reel if you wanted to. You could use it as a post on social media. You can throw it in your stories.
Mhm.
You could. When we first started, I used to throw them on YouTube as shorts. No one ever watched them. They got like 2 views. So
Probably
whatever.
for more kids.
Yeah, probably. Um, well, that's another thing that Descript can do is take out filler words. So where I just said you can click it, and it's pretty cool. It will automatically take out all the ums if
That's
you approve
cool.
it for the whole thing. Yeah. Again, be careful with that because sometimes it makes sense to have an
Right.
because it adds like a human element.
Mhm.
But for things like shorts and reels, which I think we're kind of headed out of this, but where you would have like those sort of jumpy videos to sort of keep everyone's attention, like it can work really well for that because you can chop stuff up and make it really quick. Instagram and YouTube is where we do most of our stuff. We also
Mhm.
have the email list that I send out. So I have it's not huge, but it's a decent sized list that I send out an email every Thursday. And it used to align with the podcast. And then it sort of took a life of its own and went to just sort of like my thoughts for the week or something that I thought of that day. Something I do with those. So, what we used to do, like I said, with the podcast is I would sort of boil down my thoughts of the topics we talked about and then just put that in an email and then be like, go listen to the email or go listen to the podcast episode if you want, all the details. And then that got sort of boring. So now I actually, on Thursday evenings, my ritual is to sit down and type out that email. So that's just coming off the top of my head. It's raw, and I put it in there and send that out. So that's one way you can do it. If you have an email list, if you don't, start one. And for that, we use MailChimp, and it does everything you need. So that's pretty cool too. If you go down the road and you have a huge podcast, you could always sponsor it. We've had sponsors in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool to have sponsors. You can run ads if you get enough downloads. You could do, there's all sorts of things that you can attach. There's something called, I think it's called Buy Me a Coffee, and you can link it. And it's probably like a PayPal or like a Venmo or something. But what you could do is say to someone, or say to your audience, if you guys like this, buy me a coffee. And they could click on there and they can give you like a $3 or $5 donation, right?
I want someone
So
to buy me a coffee. I like that
maybe
one.
we'll set up Buy Me a Coffee. There's
Buy me a
also
coffee. Hot black medium, please.
No, they send you the money. They don't send you the coffee.
I know. I was being funny. That was
No,
funny. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, Nicole. You just reminded me of Nicole. I'm funny. I'm not moving till you laugh. Okay. Here we go.
Generally think I'm pretty funny. Sometimes standing
You are
alone on that
funny.
one.
I just don't always get your humor. Anyways, but yeah, you could monetize. You could use something like a Patreon. I know people use that for their video podcasts a lot. And what you do with that is you can give access to people that sort of sponsor your show through Patreon. And you can have them ask questions that then you ask your guests, or that you answer, or whatever. I know we don't do this, but I think Apple has a subscription podcast. So we could make say a more in-depth podcast that maybe it's, $19.99 a month or whatever. And each week you get an extra podcast episode, something that doesn't go out to the public. So, and you can monetize that way. I think that's it. That's a good amount of stuff, right? Or
yeah, it's a lot.
Am I missing anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think having a plan in the beginning, unless you go off again, that none of this is set in stone. So if you're the type of person that's like, I really want to just walk and turn on my phone on and record and see what happens, go for it. If that works,
you can do whatever you want.
For Jen and I, there are times where we're like, we have a couple of topics in mind. We want to just hit record and chat, and we do that, and it works. And sometimes we're like, let's lay out what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a lot. With this, I had notes because I wanted to touch on the different things, but my notes are like, planning your podcast.
I think there's certain topics that it's just an easier free flow, and we organically want that conversation to be had. And then there's other ones where there's certain points we really want to make, or certain things we want the listener to get out of. And those are just more structured. And it's just really, it just depends.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, do us a favor, get on our email list, check out the stuff in the show notes. I'll put all the links. I'll try to not miss anything. Shoot us a text if you want through fan mail.
And maybe we can listen to your podcast.
And subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever, and leave us a rating. That would be great. I know this is a big ask. I don't feel like I ever ask the audience for anything.
I like it.
I'm asking for everything today.
I'll just take the coffee.
And then next week, maybe we'll talk about there was in my email this week, and I've got a little feedback from it. What we talked about, the Dunning-Kruger effect and what impact it has on the hair industry. If you don't know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is, I'm not going to tell you here.
Dun, dun, dun.
Go look it up or jump in my email, because next week is going to be a follow-up email with my thoughts on the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.
Bye.